Well, hello, everybody. I just want to thank you for joining the Business Owner Spotlight today. Man, we have a great guest with us today. So many business owners who I meet with, they really struggle with the financial side of their business, bookkeeping, taxes, just really knowing how to deploy and use capital, read income statements, get a handle on their business. So today, I'm just really excited that I get a chance to spend some time with Robert Maietta from Survival CFO. Not only is he a great financial professional and a fractional CFO, but he's a friend, and I know the type of work that he does. So I just really want to welcome Robert to the Business Owner Spotlight Series interview. And today we just want to talk about what the heck is a survival CFO? Why do business owners want a CFO? I mean, that's the big question, right? People hear this CFO. Why do I need a CFO as a small business owner? So I thought I'd just bring Robert in here and throw him on the hot seat for a minute. So Robert, welcome to the interview.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate being here. And to answer your question, why a business owner needs a CFO is because cash flow affects every business, right? And every business needs to abide by generally accepted accounting principles. So those are really the two main topics that touch every single business out there, whether you're a Fortune 500 or a small mom and pop. And I service the smaller mom and pops.
Yeah, that's the really cool thing about what Robert does, because like I said, when people think about CFO, they think big company. But the neat thing about small business that sometimes it takes people a while to understand is small businesses need CEOs, they need CFOs, they need chief sales officers, they need chief marketing officers, chief human resource officers. It just so happens that a lot of times it's the owner of the business that tries to fill in on those roles. And gosh, so many of us just don't have that background as a CFO. And I know as a business coach, having coached dozens of businesses, the carnage that I see and the challenges that I run into when they don't have the right guidance or can be a really big deal. So maybe that's a great jumping off point, is talk to us maybe a little bit about what are some of the services that you provide to business owners that after you've been working for them or with them for a while on a fractional basis, you find that they're very appreciative of and they really start to see the benefit of. What type of services are you doing the most of?
So the majority of my clients are those small business owners that they are experts in their field, but not in accounting. So just like you said, they've got to have a fractional CFO. They may already have a bookkeeping team or an accounting team, but they may not have the level of expertise that a CFO can bring. And what I do is initially identify the challenges that the business is struggling with. And that is typically in the financials. I can go through each account, put together a fact-finding report, present that to the business owner and say, look, these are your challenges and these are the solutions. And we can implement those solutions to get you back in good standings. And basically it's generally accepted accounting principles that guide me. And that's what we work towards. And then the next step is really teaching the existing bookkeeper or accounting team how to do it the right way. What are the best practices? And putting those procedures in place so that they can continue that going forward. So that way I can just touch it on a monthly or quarterly basis. I don't have to be in there every day. And so that's a cost savings for the owner as well.
Yeah, so that's a really neat point that you made there. You don't come in with the goal of replacing their bookkeeper or their accounting support system. A lot of times you're coming in and you're just filling in the gaps. Gosh, I can't tell you how many times, and sometimes business owners don't know what they don't know, and I'm a business owner as well, so I can say that with some confidence. But they don't realize that their bookkeeper isn't doing everything they know because they don't really have a measuring stick or a yardstick to attach to it, to what their bookkeeper or accountant is doing right now. So it really is a great advantage to have somebody who's worked at the highest level and really has a big picture view of a business to take a look at their accounting system and make sure they're getting all the information they need. Maybe you can break that down, Robert. Can you think of, what's a common thing that should be happening in a business or a bookkeeping arrangement that you often find isn't happening and is therefore ends up being a detriment to the business owner? Help us understand where the rubber meets the road. If I don't know what I don't know, what do I need to know?
Absolutely. So most business owners focus on sales and they look at the income statement. They rarely look at the balance sheet. Some don't even know what the balance sheet means and why it's there. But truly the balance sheet is the value of the company through all time, right? It's one period after the next, all rolls into the balance sheet. And so it is that balance sheet where I tend to find the majority of the problems. Maybe it's that they're not properly accounting for inventory, or fixed assets are being improperly coded to expenses. And so their income looks much worse than it should be, when you should really be capitalizing those items. Perhaps it's just a scenario where they're not properly booking things to prepaid or accruals. And again, so your P&L is going to be off because you're not charging those things properly to the balance sheet. So it is that the balance sheet accounts where I tend to find the majority of the problems. But then once we clarify those things, we actually can move on to other areas and help out the business. For example, I tend to find that the 401k, if they have a retirement plan, it may not be managed properly as far as compliance goes. And so then the business owner is open to liability on that. And there's other HR areas as well that there's liability exposure. That's something that I also have experience in. I mean, I've been a CFO for 20 years. And so I bring that knowledge to the table of overseeing HR as well as accounting. For that matter, corporate insurance is something that typically the business owner just renews every year without realizing that they may be overinsured or underinsured or have the wrong deductible. And so I can easily go through that for them and help them identify some cost savings there as well.
That's really helpful. Those are some things that I don't even think about that often, but I know that they're important to business owners. One of the things you mentioned was properly classifying things as expenses versus, one of the things I run into a lot of times is business owners don't understand that if they buy a truck or have a payment on a truck or a piece of equipment, they don't understand why that isn't an expense.
Right.
It's still but it's cash flow, right? So the business owner has 5 vehicles. They're investing $1,000 a month in payments because they're not on a lease program. And they have $5,000 a month of profit, they think, but they have no money and they don't understand why. Mm-hmm. Well, it's because those payments affect your cash flow, but they don't come out of the income statement. And 75% plus of the business owners that I meet, it's not their fault. Where do you go to school to learn this? But they don't understand that until somebody takes the time to explain it to them. And then you and I talked about another situation where with a construction company, just when you have big ticket sales, your income statement fluctuations can be huge unless you understand work in process or have some way of accruing expenses or income. And I don't know, do you run into those types of things as well on a frequent basis?
Absolutely. I have clients in many different industries, and that's the beauty about accounting. It really spans industries, and so I have that diversity and that background. But to answer your question, yes, all the time I run into scenarios where the business owner doesn't know how to properly book something, and it's misclassified, and I help them put it in the correct place.
So I'll ask you one more question around that area, and then there's some other stuff we want to find out about. But so these all can sound like just compliance issues. You're out of compliance. You're not doing this right. But business owners, as you well know, think a whole lot in terms of return on investment. How's this going to make me more money? So can you think of some things that you've done, in the recent past that have resulted in improved profitability, improved cash flow, improved borrowing ability? Help us share, because that's what business owners at the end of the day care a whole lot about.
Right.
in addition to compliance. But where's the rubber meet the road? How does what you do help their business make more money, grow faster, et cetera?
Well, you know, there's tax accounting and then there's business accounting, all right? And that business accounting is guided by GAAP. And GAAP allows you to capitalize things, put things on the balance sheet, and it improves your income statement. So if you're following GAAP, you actually have a stronger income statement. And when presenting that to a bank for a loan, that helps get that loan, because then the bank sees you as a more valuable company. You're a stronger based company. Now, there are other things in there as well, right? There's the debt service ratios, there's fixed charge coverage ratio. And so there's plenty of variables, but all in all, you want a strong income statement so that you can talk to a bank, and for that matter, the CPA, the tax firm, they like GAAP financials because it's easy for them to convert it into tax. So that said, I've helped my clients with the obtaining the PPP funds. Every one of my clients was able to get that, and they're going to have 100% forgiven. It's wonderful. And then there's the EIDL for the emergency disaster loans. That came out actually before the PPP, and it continues now that you can get that. And then there's Main Street Lending Program. I mean, there's so many opportunities right now that allow businesses to capitalize on this low interest rate environment. And let me speak to that for one moment. I think a few years from now, we're going to see that this is the opportunity today to refinance, not just your mortgage at home, but also corporate debt. How many business owners are looking at the corporate debt and saying, yeah, I took out that loan 3 years ago, and hey, if I refinance that, how much would I save? There's probably a good bit there, because we are at interest rate level that equates to like the 1950s. All right, you can't beat this. You've got to refinance anything and everything you can. Take advantage of collecting as much cash as you can at these rock bottom prices, because I'll tell you what, in a few years from now, when the economy's taking off, you're going to want to have that capital so you can put it to work and really grow your business.
Yeah. And, I would share with our audience that when Robert talks about the future, you want to listen to him, because he and I were in a meeting together in December of 2019, and there was a group of 45 people in there, and he stood up, introduced himself, talked about what he did. And he talked about preparing for the recession that was coming soon, and he believed it was coming in 2020. And, I think I saw some people kind of roll their eyes and shrug their shoulders a little bit. And lo and behold, you're on the money. COVID-19 probably had a little bit to do with it, but it really didn't matter. The bottom line is, we are still emerging from a very serious recession. It happened in a flash situation. So when Robert talks about the economy booming again, I wouldn't discount that, because he's probably right. He's proven himself to be a predictor of the future.
Well, I've got an advantage. I have an economics degree and a master's in business administration and finance. And so I've got a little bit of that background, plus the fact that I kind of like to prepare for things, anything and everything. So
yeah,
top of it.
We definitely want to plan ahead in the business environment, and we're just not being very smart if we don't. Well, let's talk a little bit about, there were a couple other things I wrote down here. I think you addressed GAAP versus tax accounting. Is there anything else that you wanted to say around that, or speak to, or fact-finding reports for clients, kind of what those look like?
Yeah, so the tax accounting basically is what the IRS wants to see, right? And they allow you to accelerate your depreciation. That's the biggest thing, right? There's some other small components, like only taking 50% deduction on meals and entertainment and things like that. But the really big dollar amount that impacts your tax return is that you, for the last 10 years or so, it seems, the IRS has allowed you to take 100% depreciation on a lot of your equipment that you buy. And what that does is it lowers your tax obligation. That's fantastic for tax. But if you apply that same accounting to your books, it'll make your net income look negative or zero. It's going to knock it down to nothing. You don't want that. And that's why it's so important to have GAAP accounting in your books, so that you're not accelerating that depreciation. You're straight lining it out over 7, 10 years, whatever the rules are, spreading out that cost and taking it over many years, so that you're not hitting net income all in year one. And so that's really, I would say, that probably the major difference that impacts most businesses.
Yeah, that's really good to know.
Absolutely. And then the fact-finding report, I think I mentioned earlier, that's the report that I give to the business owner about what I have found when I do my research. And they find it extremely valuable, because it's not just, a couple of bullet points. It can be 7, 8 pages of some detail, so that if they wanted to just assign it to the bookkeeper to fix, to save a few dollars, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But the more complex things, they typically have me do.
Yeah. That's, we're on the same page, and we've talked about this before. I don't mean any disrespect to the bookkeeping profession or accountants, but I highly recommend that people have more than one set of eyes looking at their financials. It's the heart of your business, and it's hard to know whether the organization you're using is just taking junk in and putting junk into your system and not asking a lot of questions, or whether they really know what they're doing and they're working in a proactive capacity. My unfortunate experience is most bookkeepers and most accountants have a forensic mindset. They just look at what is and they look backwards. And I've had numerous business owners who, when they started working with me, their business isn't doing so well, they're not making a ton of money, and they're fiercely loyal to their accountant. And I ask them, I'm like, well, your company's not making money, and your accountant, you're loyal to him, and your accountant's telling you not to do this and not to do that. If they've been along for this whole ride and you're not doing so well, I'm wondering if you should be listening to them about the future of your business. It might be fine for the past. And from working with you, I know that, because of your capacity and role as a CFO, you have to look into the future. And that's one of the things that I think really differentiates you just from your run-of-the-mill, even good CPA. It's really hard to get them to think about the future. Mm-hmm. Well, along those lines, maybe that's a great place to segue into talk to us a little bit about what customers like most about you. When you get feedback from your customers, what types of things do they say?
My website actually has many reviews on it from my customers, and so you're welcome to go out to survivalcfo.com and check those out. But a brief summary, it's the detail that I go into, digging into the numbers, and my ultimate goal is to try to identify cost savings or other income that exceed my cost. Because if I'm not a dollar benefit to your bottom line, then that makes me feel bad. And I know the business owner wants that. And so that's my goal. And there's some situations where the business owner asks me to do a lot more than it is costly, or it adds money, adds cost, but ultimately that is for a greater benefit. And so it certainly pays off.
Definitely does. Yeah, and I've had, I don't mind sharing this at all, that I've had Robert help me with clients, and the work that he's done has been fantastic. It's work that I didn't have the time and even to a degree the expertise to do myself, with financial modeling and forecasting, with business growth. And he just does a phenomenal job of that. So if you'd just like to get a second opinion, or have someone take a look at what you're doing, just to get a professional opinion on, are you getting the information you need to make good decisions now and for the future, I know that's the type of service that Robert's happy to talk to you about. So Robert, if folks want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do it?
Through my website is fine, or you could send me an email at robert@survivalcfo.com. That works great.
Super. We'll be sure to put that in the information that follows. But is there anything you'd like to end with? Any parting words of wisdom or advice for our viewing audience?
All I can say is be positive. Things will continue to improve in the world and the economy. Focus on the future. Build up your cash. Keep an eye on your cash, and because that is king.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm giving my clients the same advice. Right now, cash is king. It probably always will be, but especially right now, there's a little bit of uncertainty. Refinance your debt, like you said, at today's lowest possible interest rates. Great advice. Well, Robert, again, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us. And folks, you know how to get a hold of Robert. He'll do a great job helping you see what maybe you don't see right now and take your business to the next level. So I'll say goodbye and everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you, Mike.
All right. Thank you, Robert.
Bye.
Bye now.